In 1700, India wasn't just wealthy, it was spectacular. With nearly 25% of the world's GDP, it outshone Europe's economies combined. Bengal alone generated more wealth than the entirety of Great Britain. India's textiles clothed royalty from Japan to Italy, while its spices flavored dishes across 3 continents. By 1947, when the British finally left, India's global economic share had collapsed to less than 4%. What happened to that wealth? It wasn't destroyed. It was transferred through what might be history's greatest financial heist. Welcome back to Trendy Facts TV. Imagine your bank account being drained, not by hackers using sophisticated software, but by accountants using paperwork you were forced to sign. For 2 centuries, the British Empire engineered precisely this against 1/5 of humanity, not primarily through guns and conquest, but through ledgers, tax codes, and trade laws. This isn't a tale of victimhood. It's a masterclass in how power really works. The Mughal Empire of the 1600s governed a sophisticated civilization of 150 million people. From the shipyards of Gujarat to the textile workshops of Bengal, India hummed with commerce and innovation. When Europeans arrived, they came as supplicants, not conquerors desperate for access to goods they couldn't produce themselves. Indian textiles were so sought after that they were literally worth their weight in gold. When Europeans finally learned to copy them centuries later, they called their imitations calico, after Calicut, the Indian port they'd sailed thousands of miles to reach. And crucially, India maintained trade surpluses with nearly every partner. Gold and silver flowed into India, not out. Enter the East India Company, history's first corporate superpower. Founded in 1600, it began as just another trading venture. But unlike its competitors, the company came armed with financial innovations, joint stock ownership, limited liability, and access to London's emerging capital markets. Their breakthrough realization? The real money wasn't in selling Indian goods, it was in controlling India itself. The 1757 Battle of Plassey changed everything. Robert Clive, with just 3,000 men, defeated Bengal's ruler through betrayal rather than military might. The prize wasn't territory, it was tax collection rights. Overnight, a trading company became a revenue machine. Here's where the genius of financial colonialism revealed itself. The company transformed taxation from governance into extraction. Within years, they were siphoning what would be billions in today's dollars annually from Bengal alone. When famine struck in 1770, killing 1/3 of Bengal's population, 10 million people, company officials continued collecting taxes at gunpoint from starving farmers. Company revenues increased during the famine year. While bodies lined Bengal's roads, company shares hit record highs in London. This wasn't primitive plunder. This was sophisticated financial engineering. By the 1800s, when the British Crown took direct control, they perfected the system. Indian weavers who once produced the world's finest textiles were systematically put out of business by British tariffs and regulations. Manchester's factories boomed while Dhaka's workshops were abandoned. Remember those railways the British gave to India? They were financed through a masterstroke of colonial accounting. British investors received guaranteed 5% returns regardless of performance, with Indian taxpayers covering any shortfall. The risks were entirely Indian, the profits entirely British. In essence, Indians paid to build the very infrastructure that accelerated their exploitation. Perhaps the most brilliant extraction mechanism was the home charges annual payments India was forced to make to Britain for services rendered. These included salaries for British officials in India, pensions for retired colonial administrators, interest on loans India was forced to take, costs of the British military stationed in India, even expenses for the London office that administered the colony. By the early 20th century, these transfers exceeded $100 million annually, tens of billions in today's currency. This was wealth transferred without any goods or services in return. Economist Utsa Patnaik has calculated the total extraction at approximately $45 trillion between 1765 and 1938, more than 17 times the total GDP of Britain today. This wealth financed Britain's industrial revolution, its global wars, and its comfortable Victorian prosperity. When Dadabhai Naoroji, one of India's early economists, published Poverty and Un-British Rule in India in 1901, he mathematically demonstrated this drain of wealth. British officials dismissed his work as nationalist propaganda, but couldn't refute his numbers. The statistics are staggering, but the human toll was catastrophic. During the Victorian era alone, 35 million Indians died in famines while their country exported food to Britain. When drought struck in 1876, Viceroy Lord Lytton prohibited relief efforts, citing free market principles even as grain merchants exported food from famine-struck regions. The markets were protected. The people were not. What makes this history relevant isn't just its scale, but its uncomfortable parallels to today's world. The colonial system pioneered in India became the template for the modern global economy, where wealth flows from developing nations to developed ones through mechanisms like debt servicing, intellectual property payments, structural adjustment programs, corporate profit repatriation. Today, developing nations collectively send hundreds of billions more to wealthy economies annually than they receive in aid. The ledgers have been digitized, but the flow remains familiar. Yet India endured. After independence, despite inheriting a devastated economy with 83% illiteracy and recurring famines, India rebuilt. Today, it's among the world's fastest-growing economies, projected to become the third largest by 2030. This isn't just India's story, it's a lesson about how wealth and power operate. The British didn't just conquer India with redcoats and cannons, they conquered it with financial instruments and account books. Empire's most effective weapon was never the gun, it was the spreadsheet. What the British perfected in India was the art of extraction without responsibility, the ability to drain wealth while claiming to improve. And that system didn't disappear when the empire fell. It evolved. The next time you hear about developing nations failing economically, ask yourself, who designed the system they're failing in? And who benefits from that failure? Because empires don't truly end. They just update their software. If you found this perspective enlightening, subscribe to Trendy Facts TV, where we reveal the economic machinery that shaped our world. History may be written by the victors, but the numbers tell their own